third session. The third topic is emotional intelligence, the master skill. Emotional intelligence was made popular by Daniel Goleman in the year 1990, and it is a relatively new concept, but an immensely important one. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, interpret, and control your own emotions and respond to those of others. Dr. Bhagyalakshmi and Dr. Swati spoke to us about collaborative practice. Emotional intelligence is a key pillar in ensuring successful collaboration in any field. While all our education is focused on ensuring that we increase our IQ or the intelligence quotient, we spend very little time focusing on our EQ or the emotional intelligence quotient. So it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Pooja to share her thoughts on this topic. Before we move on with this session, there would be a short multiple choice poll which will appear on your screens. Kindly answer those and we shall resume with the session in a few minutes.
The MCQs will be posted right away. I request all the participants to answer those MCQs, and once I share the results, we can go ahead with the session. Thank you for your cooperation. Yes, we have the second set of MCQs. I request all the participants to answer those questions which are visible on your screen right now.
Getting back to where we left, Dr. Pooja is an assistant professor at the Department of Psychology, Daulat College, University of Delhi. She has been teaching psychology for more than 15 years at the undergraduate level. She is a gold medalist in MA Psychology. She is the founder and convener of India's first positive psychology center at Daulat College, Delhi. She has authored the book Emotional Intelligence, Journey to Self-Positive in 2017, and is the co-editor of the book Applications of Psychology in 2018. She is a member of the prestigious Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in Organizations. She has also been a member of the ESTEAM project, sponsored by the Ministry of Human Resource Development and University Grants Commission India, called ePathshala. We also have with us Dr. Manjula, who is the reflection panelist for this session. Dr. Manjula is an oral and maxillofacial surgeon working as a reader at the Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, JSS Dental College and Hospital, Mysore. She was awarded her Fellowship of International Medical Sciences Academy certification in 2014. She has ongoing research with special interest in dental anesthesiology and in the management of medically compromised patients in dental practice. I now welcome Dr. Pooja for the session. The platform is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
is my voice right? Okay. Before I start, let me just share my screen. Yeah, so I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So, as you know, the talk is on emotional intelligence. And when I was asked to give a topic or to frame a topic for the talk, I thought to myself, what kind of a topic should I be framing? And I decided to sort of venture into something or to say something important by saying that emotional intelligence is a master skill. Okay. And throughout my talk, I think I will be able to, yes?
Can you please put it onto the full screen mode?
Full screen, okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So throughout my talk, I think you will be able to see how emotional intelligence is not just an important skill, but it is a master skill. All right. Now, before we talk about emotional intelligence, I just want to draw your attention to the kind of world that we live in. Okay, if you look at the kind of problems that we all are dealing with, you will see that in terms of the statistics, okay, you will see that there is an increase in violence, there is an increase in the levels of stress, depression, the kind of problems that we face in our relationships. You will see increasing number of incidents for road rage. Okay, you will also see that a lot of people are falling prey to different kinds of addictions, right? And if you just look at the statistics, what is really disturbing is that a large percentage of these incidents, okay, or the perpetrators or the people who are involved in these things are the youth. Okay, so that's really important that we talk about something about, emotional intelligence, and I'll let you know how, they are related, the kind of problems that we're dealing with, and how to bring in emotional intelligence, right? So that's the kind of world that we are living in, right? Now, I'll just encourage all of you to just, dig deeper and think that if you look at these problems, right, and if you try to identify the root cause of, I think, all of these problems that I just listed and maybe even more, to find out the root cause, you know what you're going to find? Is that in each of these problems, there is somewhere an element of people not being able to manage their emotions, right? Now, there's a very strong reason for that. Why? Why are people not able to manage their emotions? The reason is that if you look at the kind of things that are emphasized in our society, I think emotions is one of the last things that we actually sort of pay attention to, isn't it? I have been told that my audience is students and faculty members. So I am speaking in a way so that you are able to identify. Is that correct? Is that my audience?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you will understand that in our society, you are mostly told, by your parents, by your teachers, don't be so emotional. Why are you crying? Okay, why are you laughing so much? Why are you so stressed out? Just relax. Everything is going to be fine, right? We just try to put emotions under the carpet, right? And what do we overemphasize? We overemphasize academic achievement. Okay, 98%, 99%. And now you also have cutoffs which are 100%. Okay, they are, right? You have a lot of emphasis on IQ. So this person has the highest IQ. This person has the highest IQ. I'm sure you must be reading all these newspaper reports, right? What happens is that when you start to focus only or majorly on achievement, and particularly academic achievement or your success at the workplace, what happens is we are putting a lot of pressure on the young people, right? We don't realize that. We are pressurizing them. Okay, and then we say, oh, you're such a crybaby, oh, you're not able to handle your emotions. It's just a vicious cycle, isn't it? So if you try to put all these things together, what do you understand? What is the solution to these kind of problems that we all are facing? And then let me just tell you what the solution is. The solution is for us to strive to be emotionally intelligent. Okay, I'll be sharing how we can do that, but particularly I would like to talk about, I started my talk with that I thought a lot about the topic and came up with emotional intelligence, the master skill. Okay, I would like to explain why I'm calling it the master skill. It's not IQ. Okay, it's not your achievements. They are important. Yes, I'm not denying that. But why is emotional intelligence the master skill? Somewhere I read a discussion where there were, viewpoints given by different philosophers, and they were talking about which is the master virtue, right? And there was a debate which was, whether wisdom is the master virtue or whether self-regulation is the master virtue. And I said to myself that why is it self-regulation? Why is it not emotional intelligence? Because self-regulation is a part of emotional intelligence. Okay, so this is my proposal, that instead of, yes, wisdom is important, other things are important. I'm not denying that, right? But I think if you start considering emotional intelligence as a master skill, we are really going to do a lot of good for the people. Okay, we'll see how. All right, so now it's a master skill, right? So I'm sure, you must have heard a lot about emotional intelligence, okay? But here I'm going to give you a definition of emotional intelligence, which I actually, I came up with this definition when I wrote my book, which got published in 2017, Emotional Intelligence Journey to Self-Positive, right? And here I define emotional intelligence as, a set of competencies, right? Related to, first of all, understanding and managing your own emotions, then understanding the emotions of other people, and developing and maintaining satisfying relationships with other people. Now, if you look at a lot of models of AI, you will see that these components are there in a lot of models, okay? But then there's something which I felt which was not there in other models. So I added this because that's what my research showed me, is that it also involves an element of channeling your emotional energy to reach or to achieve or to create a positive self, right? So if you sort of dissect this definition, right, what are the important components that you find? That's what I'm going to be talking about. All right. So majorly, if you break down AI into different components, according to the more popular models, you will see that you can divide the domains of emotional intelligence into two. Okay. One is about the self, right? So which I have named self-competence, and the second is social. Okay. Within self-competence, you have two factors or two important components, and within the social one, you have another two components. So let's first talk about the self-component, self-competence. Okay. Now, within self-competence, you have, let me just go here. Okay. Within self-competence, you have two factors or two components of the I. The first, we'll be talking about your emotional self-awareness, and second, we'll be talking about your emotional self-management. So let me first finish this and then we'll go further. Okay, so emotional self-awareness. Now, this is extremely important. Now, here I was just telling you how emotions are neglected. Okay, a lot of the times I'm telling you, you're not able to sort of define or to verbalize what emotions you're feeling. I have seen a lot of people, they have, they have wrinkles here, they are, they're stressed out, but if you just ask them, they're not aware of it. Or they just have a smile on their face and they don't know why they're smiling. Okay, all these things show that somewhere you are not in touch with your emotions, right? So the first step, I would say, for any kind of self-improvement, okay, is to become aware, right? And here we are talking about improving ourselves. So the first thing you need to do is to become aware, right? So you should first know what you're feeling, right? You have to be in touch with your emotions. You don't have to put them under the carpet, okay? You don't have to ignore your emotions. Emotions are really important, okay? You have to identify which emotion you're experiencing, because there's a range of emotions, if you see, right? And you should understand your emotions, okay? You should understand how your emotions influence your thinking, judgment, and behavior. Now, often you are told, that, in fact, a large part of my lecture would also focus on how your thought influences your emotions, but it's also the vice versa. Okay, the kind of emotional state that you're in also influences your cognitive processes. Okay, so that's something that you should keep in mind. Then understanding the cause of one's emotional state. Like I said, a lot of the times you're not even aware of what we are feeling. Forget about the reason why you're feeling so. Okay, then being correctly able to label the emotion that you're experiencing, that's also very important. Okay, a lot of the times you may be excited about something, but you just mislabel it as anxiety. And when you do that, there is a different implication of that just because you mislabeled a particular emotion. Okay, so that's also important. And how will you be able to correctly label your emotions is, of course, being more in touch with your feelings, with what you're experiencing. At the same time, learning more emotion related words, okay, so that you're better able to describe what you're feeling. Okay, accurate self assessment. Now we're talking about self awareness, so self assessment is a part of it. That means you should be aware about your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. That's called SWOC, right? And often, I ask my students to make a list of their strengths and weaknesses. And, when they're making a list, or any audience, not just my students, often the list of weaknesses is slightly longer than the list of strengths. Okay, or the list of challenges is slightly longer than the list of opportunities. Now, that's something very interesting, right? A lot of the time, we just focus more on what we do not have. Okay, but that's a different idea in psychology altogether, which is positive psychology. So, anyway, you should be able to identify all these four elements in yourself to be better aware about what you're experiencing. Just hang on. Okay, I'm on the 8th one. All right. Okay, right. Now let's come to the second component of self-competence, right? We are still on the self. Now, once you know what you're experiencing, you should also be able to manage your emotions. That's very important, okay? You should be able to exercise self-control. You should know when to say something, when not to say something, when to do something, when not to do something, okay? You should be able to think clearly when it's a very stressful kind of a situation. Often, we get very panicky when something important comes up, or something which can evoke some stress, but we get highly stressed out because of that. Okay, so we need to calm down in such a situation. We need to remain calm, think clearly, and remain focused on what we are trying to do. Okay. Now, because I'm talking about self-management, then let's also talk about a very important part of self-management, which is self-motivation. Okay. Now, self-management doesn't only mean that you have to manage your anger, anxiety, and stress. It also means what you're doing with your emotions. Okay. And because we just learned that emotions also facilitate our cognitive processes, so it's really important. Now, what's self-motivation? It means that you have a sense of purpose, right? You have certain goals in life, and then you try to garner different resources to reach those goals, right? And a very important part of this would be, your drive, your achievement drive, your achievement orientation, trying to achievement doesn't mean that you have to achieve something very high-fi all the time. No, it just means that you are doing better than what you were doing before, isn't it? That's what achievement is. So striving towards excellence, trying to do something better the next time, right? And setting goals for yourself, right? So we've talked about the self aspect. Now, when we're talking about EI, it is not just how you are, working with yourself. It's also important how you're working with other people, right? So that's what the social component is all about, social competence. And here again, you have two components, okay? One is empathy, and the second is building and maintaining relationships with other people, right? So first, let us just understand what empathy is. Now, a lot of the people often get confused between sympathy and empathy. They are not clear about what empathy is. Okay, empathy is about perspective taking, right? It means that you are able to understand the situation of a person from their perspective rather than staying in your perspective. All right, and when you do that, a lot of the things are so clear, you are able to understand the other person in a much, much better way. Okay, like they would want to be understood. That's what empathy is. It also means that you're able to understand the needs of other people. Okay, what they want, the concerns of other people, the emotions of other people. Okay, and how do you know that? Not just by what they are saying, but also through their expressions, through their body language. A lot of the times, I mean, there are students in my audience, you would know, or even teachers, you know. A lot of the times, the person sitting next to us, a lot of the times they're going through a lot, but they don't share. So, how do you get to know that something is bothering them? Through their body language. Okay, and maybe you could just reach out and offer help, and a lot of the time that really works. Okay, so, and we know, I mean, this is really important because particularly at this moment when we all are, uh, the pandemic is there, right? And a lot of the young people particularly are facing a lot of mental health issues. So it's really important to stay in touch, okay, through different forms of social media. Look out for each other, offer support to each other. Okay, that is what empathy is. Now, it has also implications for pro-social behavior. Like I said, when you're able to understand the other person, their needs, their concerns, you will be able to offer help to them. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't even know what they're going through. Okay, next. Now, this is the second component of the social competence aspect. Okay, and it means that how do you go on to build relationships with other people, right? So, building and maintaining relationships with other people, and why would you do that? Now, that would be a topic for a different discussion, is because relationships are the key source to our well-being. Okay, that is why developing others. That means you just don't talk about your own development all the time, okay, or your own goals. You also look out for other people and you try to help them achieve their goals. That's called developing others, okay? That's what you can do as a student. That's what you can do as a teacher. And that's what you can do as an administrator. I'm sure there are certain administrators also in my audience, and you would understand what I'm saying. Then in relationships, I'm sure you will all agree that communication skills are extremely important. Okay, how you communicate to another person, and when you say communication skills, it is not just verbal skills. Okay, it's not just what you're saying. It is also your non-verbal component. Okay, your body language, your eye contact. Okay, your facial expressions. All these things are really important. Okay, so paying attention to all of this. Conflict resolution, of course, I mean, there's a lot of potential for conflict in any kind of a relationship. So it's not a problem if there are conflicts, but how do you handle or how do you manage those conflicts is what is important. Okay, so that was the first part of my talk, and where I just wanted to explain what EI is all about. Okay, now I go on to the second part of my talk, which is about that when you say or when you term something as a skill or as a competence, okay, it means something. Okay, what does it mean is that it can be enhanced through training, right? And that is why you will see the terms competence or the term skill associated with AI, because and that's the beauty of emotional intelligence, is that it is something that you can learn. Okay, so the next part of my talk is about how you can enhance your EI, how we can sort of become a better person, and how can we sort of enhance emotional intelligence in ourselves and in other people. Okay, all right. So I'll go component wise. Okay, so the first component is self-awareness. So I'm going to talk about how you can enhance your self-awareness, right? Now I have a lot of slides. Let me see which slide I am on. That's why. Okay, I am on the 15th one. Okay, all right. And my time is 12. So okay, I am on time, all right. So I can take some time and speak to you about the strategies. Okay, so strategies for enhancing your self-awareness. How can you become more aware about your emotions? Is first of all, you need to understand what emotions are. What are the different components of emotions? Okay, there's a cognitive component, there's a behavioral component. So you need to understand the idea or the concept of emotions. Like I said earlier, you need to also enhance your emotion-related vocabulary. You need to learn more emotion-related words, okay? Third is experiencing the emotion. Now, this is important. Often I have seen, particularly that happens with sadness, with grief. Okay, and I just recently, wrote a post about it, and which a lot of the people were able to identify, because a lot of the times people just say, okay, just smile, okay, or be happy. How can you be happy all the time? That's not possible, right? Each emotion has a function. If sadness has a function, shame has a function, guilt has a function. You cannot say this is more important and this is less important. You can't. Okay, it is according to the situation that you're going to experience the emotion. So do not brush your emotions under the carpet. Okay, do not try to act all practical all the time. Utilize your emotions, okay, in a better way rather than just ignoring them all the time. That's what I want to say. Observing your thoughts. Okay, now let me just explain it very briefly. Is that the latest idea in psychology, okay, is that particularly cognitive psychology, is that the way you think is the way you feel. Okay, so if you want to feel better, you need to change the way you think. Okay, so observing your thoughts. What kind of thoughts are you having? That's also important. Now, for that, of course, you can maintain an emotion journal. I think that's a very useful strategy, which means you can maintain a diary or a weekly record or a daily record of what kind of emotions you've been experiencing. Okay. And believe me, when you look back, you're going to be surprised, okay, as to the kind of emotions you've been experiencing. Observing the reactions of other people. Okay. A lot of the times you learn more about yourself by what other people tell you. Okay. So I'll be coming upon feedback also. What kind of feedback other people are giving you? Then introspection, obviously, you need to look within yourself and you need to sort of question yourself and understand yourself in a better way. Valuing the feedback from other people, okay, and reflecting upon that feedback, okay, giving importance to the feedback given by other people, and then preparing a swap list. I just told you how you can make a swap list, right? Okay, so that was for the first component. Let's go over to the second component, which is reducing the intensity of distressing emotions. Okay, now I know that each emotion is important. Each emotion has a function, but we all know that if you feel sad for a long period of time, or you feel angry most of the time, or you feel stressed out most of the time, that is not going to do very well for you. Okay, so there are certain distressing emotions that you really need to watch out for, and I'm not telling them to ignore them, or I mean telling you to ignore them or put under the carpet, but just try to reduce their intensity. Okay, then trying to adopt a positive emotional state. Okay, if possible, you don't have to deliberately do all the time, but situation wise, accordingly, you should try to adopt a more positive emotional state. Then you should also be able to anticipate the negative consequences of emotions. Okay, you should be able to understand that if I am angry most of the time, what is it going to lead to? If I am sad most of the time, what is it going to lead to? Okay, you should be able to do that. Finding a safe outlet for venting. Now, that's also important. Now, that safe outlet could be your mother, it could be your friend, it could be a counselor, or it could just be your diary. Okay, you should try to express your emotions. Don't keep bottling them up. Okay. Another way, you can write down about your emotional experiences. Okay, I was just talking about maintaining a journal or maintaining a diary. So when you do that, it's quite cathartic. Okay, you are able to express your emotions better. Seeking social support, right? A lot of the times you're not able to deal with your anger, you're not able to deal with some emotions, so you take the help of other people, right? Stop blaming others. Now, this is important. A lot of the times we say, no, I'm going to come to that later as well. We say, you made me angry. Okay, you were making me stressed out. We always trying to put the blame on other people, which is not a correct strategy at all. Okay, you should try to own the emotion that you're experiencing, right? So stop blaming others. And of course, calm down. Okay, then this is related to self-motivation, which is a part of self-management, is to identify your needs, motives, and goals. Okay, you should be able to know where you're headed to. You should be able to tell what the purpose of your life is. What do you want? Okay, having appropriate role models to emulate. Okay, so in each area of your life, you should be able to understand, okay, what I want to be like. Okay, it's not necessary that you need to have a person to say, okay, this is a role model. It could be anything. It could just be an amalgamation of good characteristics from different people. Okay, so role models. Setting realistic yet challenging goals. Now we all know there are certain principles for goal setting, isn't it? That means that your goals should not be unrealistic. Okay, there should be something which is within your reach, slightly out of your reach. That means it is challenging enough for you. Okay, then trying to perform better than you did the last time. This is something that I said. Picking up activities that you've always wanted to do as a way of motivating yourself, taking responsibility for yourself. This slide particularly is more about intrinsic motivation. Okay, motivation that comes from within. Looking for ways to inspire oneself. Okay, I mean, you all know there are different ways. Like I said, one of them I just talked about, having a role model or anything, even a song can inspire you, a person can inspire you, a book can inspire you, anything. Okay, so try to look for such things, such inspirations in your life. Motivate yourself to achieve your goal. Okay. Now we come to the third component, which is empathy, and we try to look at how you can become more empathic. Okay. So, first of all, you need to understand that the perspective of another person may be different from yours. I think this is one of the major issues with all of us, that we always try to look at another person's situation from how we look at the situation. And that's I think the root cause of all the problems. Okay, we should try to understand what a person is going through from their perspective. A lot of the issues, a lot of the misunderstandings are going to go away when you do that, believe me. Okay, trying not to be judgmental towards others. I know this is, easier said than done, but still, you should try not to judge other people. Okay, and trying to understand what they're actually feeling, accepting the needs and emotions of others. Okay, trying to give importance to other people and not just me all the time. Okay, it has to be also, there has to be space for other people also, valuing other people. This is what I was saying, that there has to be a balance between your needs, your wants, and the needs and wants of other people as well. Okay, asking for forgiveness if one has transgressed. Okay, how would you feel if somebody does something wrong to you and does not apologize? The same thing applies to other people as well. So if you've done something wrong, why not go and apologize to that person? Okay, and how do you know they are going to like it? Is because you're going to like it when somebody apologizes to you if they have done something wrong, isn't it? So that's how you can increase your empathy. And then how you can sort of develop your relationships is, first of all, you understand that relationships are really crucial in your life. Okay, and if you look at a lot of studies, some of the latest studies you will see, which actually show that the biggest component or the most important component for your well-being is the kind of relationships that you have. Okay, so there's enough data to show that, and obviously we all value relationships in our life. Okay, and once you do that, you value the needs and emotions of other people. Once you value the relationships in your life, you also value what other people are thinking and feeling. You try to understand their perspective. Okay. Now, a very important part of relationships, as I told earlier, are your communication skills. Okay, how do you speak? A lot of the times, the content of what you're speaking is all right, but the way you speak is not correct. Okay, the tone of your voice is not correct, and that may lead to a lot of conflict or a lot of issues in your relationships. Okay, so in case of a conflict, you just don't say, okay, let them come and apologize to me. Okay, and you show all kinds of arrogance and no, right? You need to understand that yes, conflict is going to be there, but we need to resolve conflicts in our relationships. Okay, now this is a technique which is very, very important, which I think all of you should know, which is I messages, right? And what is I messages is that a lot of the times when someone does something wrong, we often are very judgmental. We say, you're stupid, okay, or you are irresponsible, or you are lazy. In just one statement, we are able to just judge the other person, okay, and just give a very global evaluation of that person, which is not correct, right? So, what we need to do is we need to break it down, okay, we need to describe what the other person has done in a more concrete way. That's one. You also need to explain how that has impacted you, what emotions you're experiencing, okay, which is the third one. Okay, my feelings about it. Instead of saying, you made me angry, you made me sad, I felt hurt. Okay, that's how you speak, okay, and what you would want the other person to do. Now, this technique is really, really important in communication. This was given by a person called Tom Gordon, if I'm not wrong. Okay. The strategies for developing and maintaining your relationships is, like I said, I mean, developing potential in other people. When you see talent, when you see potential in another person, try to promote that. Try to, make them aware about the opportunities of developing their potential. Understanding and respecting diversity. Okay, now that's very important because nowadays, I mean, you will see we have a very heterogeneous kind of a society, right? You cannot just think of your own group or just think about the benefit of your own group. You also need to understand the needs and what the other groups or other people also want. Okay, so you need to respect diversity in your institution around you, right? Then you should be able to manage yourself or your emotions so that you do not hurt another person. Like I said, a lot of the times you just say something. Okay, you feel it's very funny, but the other person may be hurt because of that. Okay, so try not to do that. Give direct and constructive feedback, right? That's also very important. I mean, you will do something to others which you want that others should do to you. And in the same way, you will not do anything to other people which you do not want to be done to yourself, isn't it? So apply that formula and that's really going to work. Okay, expressing care and love for other people. Then not giving mixed signals. Not that means your verbal content is different, your non-verbal content is different. So people get confused. Okay, try to have that kind of authenticity, that kind of integrity in your behavior, which is really going to sort of shine through and the other person can understand you better. Okay, now I come to the last part of my talk, where, like I said, my audience is faculty members and students, and also I believe certain administrators would be there. So I'm going to sum up by telling you how important EI is for teachers, for students. Now, before that, I'm going to briefly talk about how EI is important in almost all domains of life, as you can see. If you look at this diagram, I mean, your health and well-being is going to be better. And all the things that I've put in this diagram are based on research, okay? So for each of these elements, there is a strong research backup. So your health and well-being is better, okay? You score better, you do better in your academics, much, unlike that, always talking about your IQ and, just ignoring your emotions are not going to do you any good. Okay, I've seen the brightest of students not able to perform well, not able to do certain things just because they're not able to manage their emotions. Okay, so better academic achievement, you're more pro-social when you are high on emotional intelligence, you have better relationships, you have lower deviant behavior. You remember I talked about addictions and road rage, all these things. Okay, so you are low on that, you have better work performance, you become a better leader, you have more chances of getting selected when you go for an interview. Okay, so many benefits as you can see. But because I am, in an educational setup and my audience is also in an educational setup, I'm going to focus more on teachers and students. Okay, so just the next few slides, I'll be doing that so as to wrap up my talk. All right, now I'm sure there are many teachers in my audience, and so why is EI important for teachers? Okay, is because, and the teachers will know because I am also a teacher, and this is all from my own experience, is that we experience a wide range of emotions at the workplace, isn't it? We have to deal with so many people. We have to deal with students, we have to deal with the parents of students, we have to deal with our colleagues. Okay, we have to deal with the administrators, isn't it? And when you are in those kind of working relationships, of course, you're going to experience a lot of emotions, right? Then we're also multitasking, right? We are a teacher, yes, but we're also, in a way, a role model. Okay, you may not want to be that, but you are, isn't it? We are also mentors. We also, are guiding researches. We are sort of uh, giving advice to our students about career related issues, right? So we are also mentoring them. We are also doing a lot of administrative work, isn't it? Then if you look at the studies, right, you will see that teachers, if you look at teachers as a group, you will see that teachers are one of the groups which is the most stressed out. Okay, and I think my third point is able to explain why, right? So it's very important for teachers to develop emotional intelligence, right? Okay. Why? Because we are also responsible for how our students are learning, okay? And I would encourage the faculty to try to understand the kind of emotions that is created, in the classroom and how that impacts the learning of the students. We are not just responsible for their learning, we are also responsible for their well-being, isn't it? How they are feeling, are they feeling good today, are they not feeling very good? I'm sure, I mean, during the pandemic, uh, I'm just speaking to the teachers right now, you would have seen so many different kinds of emotions in the students, okay? And you just can't ignore that, you have to handle that as well, right? You have to show compassion to your students. But at the same time, like I told you that I've written all this from my experience, I would also like to tell you that as much as we talk about compassion, right? We also need to understand something which is called self-compassion, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. So you cannot look after everyone if you're not looking after your own self. Okay, so that's very important. So you need to focus on well-being. You need to focus on the well-being of your students. Okay, you need to focus on your own emotions, because a lot of the times the kind of emotions you have, the students are also going to sort of experience that kind of an emotion. Okay, so you need to be vigilant about that. Okay, now let's come to the students. Why is it important for the students to practice emotional intelligence, okay, or to develop emotional intelligence? Is because the students also experience a wide range of emotions, okay? Let me see how much time I have. Okay, so I have some time. How much time do I have? So I'll talk accordingly.
Uh, you have time till 1 p.m.
Okay, but there will be certain questions as well. Now, so I'll probably stop in 5-7 minutes,
Yes.
and then we can have a few questions. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely okay.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So why EI is important for students? And now I'm particularly talking to the students, is that you all know that you experience so many emotions in your classroom, isn't it? particularly during the pandemic. I mean, it's been 1 year, more than 1 year now, the kind of emotions that you're experiencing, right? Your whole system has changed, right? You're totally on to online learning. How do you adjust to that? Not being able to see your friends, not being able to see your teacher. It's so difficult for teachers as well as students. Particularly at this time, I would like to emphasize during the pandemic, I think it's very, very important for all of us to develop emotional intelligence. Okay, then the students, they have to deal with their own emotions. They have to deal with the emotions of their peers, which is other students, with teachers, with their own parents, okay, with the administrators. They have to fill this form, that form, okay. They have to do so many things, okay. And like teachers, the students are also multitasking, right? They have to work on their curricular activities. They have to, focus on their academics at the same time, co-curricular activities. Okay, they have to publish papers, they have to make presentations, so many things you're doing, right? You have to participate in extracurricular activities, isn't it? You're planning for your career, what to do next, right? So it's a very stressful phase, right? And if you're not able to balance it well, if you're not able to manage your emotions well, things can really go out of hand. And we all know, I mean, if you look at the statistics, if you look at research, you will see that college students, particularly this group of 18 to 25, which is young adults, they face a lot of stress during this phase of their life. Okay, so I want to suggest to all the students that yes, your academics are important. Okay, the same goes for the teachers. Your work is important, all right, but your well-being is much more important. Okay, so you need to focus on your emotions. You need to focus on your mental health first. Everything else will come later. Okay, if you're feeling good here, everything will work out. Okay, so focus on your well-being. That's my suggestion. Okay. So now I've just broken it down very quickly. I'll be talking about each of the components and what you can do, okay, for both teachers and students. So you need to be aware about your emotions. I just told you, try to learn more and more words about emotions, become aware about your thoughts, okay, try to prepare a SWOT list. And why is this important is because if you're aware about your own emotions, okay, you're more likely to be aware about emotions of other people. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, you have to manage your emotions. Okay, you have to try to stay calm under pressure. Okay, you need to have a sense of purpose. You need to set certain goals for yourself, realistic goals, and work hard to achieve those goals. Okay, try to motivate yourself in different ways and try to look at obstacles more as a challenge rather than a threat. Next, importance of empathy for teachers and students. This I feel is really important, okay? Because often you see the students are cribbing about the teachers. Teachers don't do this, teachers don't do that, and teachers are saying, students are like this. Aajkal ke bacche, these kind of things. Don't fall prey to these kind of things, okay? Each one has their own viewpoint, right? We need to understand that. So understand the perspective of the student, and the students need to understand the perspective of the teacher, right? Don't judge each other. Try to understand each other. I know it's difficult, okay, but start trying. Being accepting towards others, okay, trying to accept another person as they are, not as you would want them to be. Now, active listening. Now, this is important because a lot of the times we just, sort of, when somebody is saying something, we are not paying attention. Okay, so we need to actually listen to what another person is saying. Okay, active listening. And last is, how do you maintain your relationships? You have to connect with your students. Students have to connect with their teachers. Okay, you need to practice your communication skills, your body language. Okay, how you speak, what not to say, what to say in a certain situation. Okay, developing each other. So teachers need to develop their students. The students need to, also focus on the feelings and the needs of the teachers. And conflict resolution. If there's a conflict, then you try to resolve it. Okay, so this I think is the last part of my slide. So just summing it all up is basically, if you look at emotional intelligence. Okay, I started with talking about how it's a master skill, right? And it is a master skill. I'm sure I've been able to convey that to you. And we need to bring emotional intelligence. We need to focus more on emotional intelligence. I've just talked about education today. Okay, not just in education. If you remember my diagram, I mean, each aspect of our life is touched by emotional intelligence, right? So if we all, in a very small way, just try to change ourselves, just try to improve ourselves just a little bit, I think as a society, we are going to change. We are going to bring in a lot of positive change in the society. Okay, so with this, I end my talk. Thank you all so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for the enriching session on the importance of emotional intelligence, about how handy a tool it is in our day-to-day lives, educating us about how important it is in today's competitive, result-driven world, without being able to channel our emotions to drive things and people forward without getting carried away ourselves. Thank you again, Dr. Pooja.
Thank you so much
I
for
would now
having
like,
me. Thanks for
I
having
would,
me.
thank you, ma'am. I would now like to welcome Dr. Manjula to briefly summarize the session. Over to you, ma'am. Dr. Manjula?
Uh, Nikita,
Yeah, fine. Nikita, thank you, Dr. Pooja. Anyway, very nice talk. It is the right time for us all. Each one of us are trying our level best to adapt to the new situation due to the pandemic here. It has beautiful what emotional intelligence is all about. It is the ability to your emotions work for us. This is what is the message here. Like we always have to make work against us. So we should be very careful about expressing ourselves and how we enact ourselves also. And when it comes to happiness and success in life, emotional quotient matters as much as intelligence quotient. Emotional intelligence helps us build stronger relationships, succeed at work, achieve a career as well as personal goals. It can also help us to connect with the feelings into actions, feel and make informed decisions about what matters to us the most. So, in the gist of us, we express to others in the more in the way it has to be understood. Um, Now, the key points would be to be effective leaders. We must have a solid understanding of how our emotions and actions affect the people around us. The better a leader relates to and works with others, the more successful he or she will be. Now, taking the time to work on self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. These are the 4 points where we have to spend some time on. Working on these areas will definitely help all of us to excel in future. Thank you, Dr. Pooja. Uh, are
Thank
there
you
any
so much.
questions? Let me just check the question and answer box. We have a question by Dr. Parinita. Her question is, how do we manage emotion in professional stress?
I think we need to have a better understanding of emotions, right? Like if you focus on my talk, I have said that a lot of the times we just keep emotions out of academia. Okay, we keep it out of our professional sphere. Okay, don't be too emotional. You just have to be practical. I think if you look at a lot of latest research, okay, you will see that emotions play a very important role in your professional life as well. Okay, Now you're talking about how to manage your emotions. I mean, managing your emotions would also mean the so-called positive emotions as well. Now, I'm sure you must have heard about the theory by Frederickson, which is the broaden and build theory, which says that if you experience more of joy, more of happiness, okay, you are more creative at the workplace. You're more innovative. Okay. Now that's something that we should take from there, and we should try to experience more positive emotions at the workplace. One, so that's really going to influence your performance, right? Second is when you talk about stress. So the same thing which I talked about self management is you first need to be aware that you're stressed out instead of saying no, I'm all right. No, you can't do that. Okay, you need to focus on which emotion you're experiencing. Let's talk about stress because that's the question, and try to understand why you were experiencing stress. Okay, try to understand the cause of that stress, and then try to see if it is a conflict, if it is a lot of burden on you. Try to do something to resolve that. Okay, that's my only suggestion, that if you feel that it's all right, I can be stressed and I can work, no, it doesn't work that way. You need to give importance to your emotions. Okay, once you have that entire conceptual change in your mind, I think all these things will flow in a better way, right? You'll be more in touch with your emotions. You will manage your emotions better. Okay, so the first thing you need to realize is that you need to focus on your emotions. Yes. So that's my answer for that question. I'm sorry, I'm not able to listen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm back.
Hmm.
There's another question by Dr. Sri Lakshmi Radhakrishnan.
Okay.
In fact, she's got 3 questions. I'll take one at a time here for you.
Okay,
How
sure.
much, the first one is, the first part of a question is, how much important is it to deal
I'm not able to get the
Uh,
rather than
question.
run away from?
Dr. Pooja, can you please look into the Q&A box yourself, like
Okay,
visible
okay.
on your screen?
Okay,
And
okay.
even I think
Just
Manjula will be
okay,
back.
right. So Shri Lakshmi is asking, how much important is it to deal with negative emotions rather run away from it? Can you talk few things on the topic of false positivity and the importance of now? Okay, now that's a huge question. Okay, you could have another session on that, but still I'll try to answer that. Okay, and that is something that is a mistake I don't want to make in my talks, because the moment, and I told you that I have recently, I wrote a post on this, and a lot of the people could identify with this, because you see that a lot of the times there is something which is called toxic positivity. Okay, and I'm telling you because I teach positive psychology, I teach emotional intelligence, which are about self improvement. So a lot of the people say, how can you be emotionally intelligent, or how can you be positive all the time? I mean, these questions come when you're not able to get the spirit of these constructs right. Okay, toxic positivity is when somebody is grieving. Okay, somebody is sad, and you just go to them and you say, oh, smile, let's go for a movie, oh, everything is going to be fine. Okay, that is toxic positivity for you. Or you just draw a smiley face and you want to make them smile all the time. Who says that you have to be happy all the time? Is it possible? Tell me. Is it possible to be happy all the time? No, it's not even possible. It's not even functional. It's not correct. You need to experience each and every emotion. Okay, so that's one. That's my answer to toxic positivity. Not at all. It doesn't have to be practiced, and that is not what positive psychology is all about. One. Okay, next is when we are talking about positive and negative emotions. Now this is again something that I really want to address, because a lot of the time we say positive emotions and then we say negative emotions. This terminology is, I think, incorrect. Okay, why? Because the moment you say positive, you feel, oh, this is something which is very desirable, and the moment you say negative, oh, it is something which you don't need to talk about. Okay, so let me tell you that this classification into positive and negative has to be done away with. Each emotion is important, whether it is anger, whether it is happiness, whether it is shame, whether it is guilt. Each emotion is important. Okay. What is really important is you need to manage each emotion, right? So it's not just you have to manage only negative emotions. You also need to manage the amount of joy that you're having. I mean, you can't go to people who are grieving and be all happy and cheery all the time, isn't it? That's the wrong place, wrong time for happiness, I would say. Okay, so first we need to do away with all these conceptualizations of positive, negative, or you have to be happy all the time. It's not possible. Okay, so there were multiple questions. Let me see if I have answered all of them. So I have addressed toxic positivity. I have talked about, okay, I mean, if you talk about, how to manage your distressing, I would say use the term distressing instead of negative. Okay, so that way I think we'll have a better terminology. So, I mean, like I talked about the strategies, you first need to understand which emotion you're experiencing. Okay, and then try to deal with it. So I just talked about stress, so I hope I was able to answer your questions, or do you want me to answer more? I can do that.
Just one more
But
question, Dr.
yeah,
Pooja.
yes.
It says from Dr. Nandalal, how to
Mhm.
cope with changing emotions over the end of the day.
Changing emotions, what does that mean, changing emotions?
Yes, that's what the question says. How to cope with changing emotions over the end of the day, followed by another question.
I guess
How to deal with emotionally immature? I think that question is incomplete. Well, I think we will further take up these questions as we are falling short of time. I'm sure we'll answer these questions personally to them. Is that okay, Dr. Pooja?
Sure, I can do that. I can answer now also, but I understand. I mean, time is running out.
Because
I
I
do
feel
get
the
that.
question is incomplete as I read it.
Okay, all right. So
We
they
will.
can, of course, they can email me or
Dr.
whatever.
Pooja,
I'll answer their question. Yeah.
That brings us to the end of the question and answer session. Thank you again, Dr. Pooja and Dr. Manjula. I would now like to request Dr. Pooja to accept our token of appreciation in the form of a certificate.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My
ma'am.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Manjula. We really appreciate your time with us.